Sabbath, as the Bible explains it, has primarily to do with not doing. I know some of us, at least I should say, find that extremely hard. Especially not working. How can we even begin to consider the Sabbath with any seriousness when our culture seems to be asking us to be on the go 24/7? Do you remember when the phrase 24/7 became part of our daily lingo? I remember sitting in a meeting at a church I worked at. The pastor walked in. She decided she wanted to talk about 24/7 at the meeting. It was a meeting of the people who run the church. Music staff, myself, a couple other people. And sure enough, we'd all already heard the phrase. It already rang true. We were very familiar with what it meant to be on the go 24/7. Everything is always open for business. And that was true even before the internet made shopping in your pajamas possible. Many of us are working at home. I know many of you work at home. What's that mean? Well, that means the home is no longer a sanctuary from work. Sabbath? They play baseball next to the church while we're having church. Some of you take your kids to hockey rinks at 5 o'clock on Sunday morning. As one of our members put it this week, another working mother, by the way, I feel like I'm on a hamster wheel. I mean, is it even worth our time to talk about Sabbath given the world we have created, we have accepted? Well, we're going to try. I have been reading a truly remarkable and lovely book about the Sabbath. It's by a Jewish woman named Judith Schultz. It's about her search for Sabbath in her own crazy life. I'll be sharing some of her insights during this series. I've learned a lot about the history of Sabbath, just as you did when Virginia was talking this morning. But what's most important is this book brings a very personal hunger from someone raised Jewish, but not necessarily that religious, who knew what the Sabbath was and had many friends, Jewish friends, who practiced it from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, but never did herself, and finally got to a place in life when she decided maybe that was the answer to Sabbath. When she first discovered that she was impossibly busy, she wasn't even married, she wasn't even a mother. She was a young single woman beginning a career in New York City. No kids, no spouse, but still crazy busy. And she coined a phrase I want to share with you, and I'll bring it back here in the coming weeks. Because it so describes what I hear you come and tell me that you are unhappy about in your lives. When she looked at her life, she realized that, here's where the quote begins, everything, even socializing, reading, or exercising, felt like work, or the pursuit of work by other means. Work, or the pursuit of work by other means. A clever and funny phrase, but also sad, and also true. Isn't that what so many of us feel like? Isn't that what bothers us? Not that we have kids, not that we have interesting hobbies, not that we get to do this and this in this wonderful Chicagoland we live in. What bothers us is that everything begins to feel like work. Well, here I am approaching the bottom of page 3 already, and I guess there's really no time left to talk about that fourth commandment this morning. So I'm going to leave you with some questions that I hope you will think about in the coming week. And as I've often said, asking the right questions is the first step toward finding the answers we truly need. What do you think it means that in the Hebrews creation stories, God rested on the seventh day? Nowhere in the Bible does it tell us what God did. I'll share some speculation about that in the coming weeks. Not only did God rest, it says, but later in the book of Exodus, it says that after resting, God was refreshed. Now let me ask you, however you imagine God, and we all imagine God differently, do you imagine God needing to rest? Is that part of your theology? Is that part of your image of God? You should know that there are many, many, many different creation stories. And you should know that the Hebrews probably borrowed a lot of their own creation story, as they did the story of Noah and the flood, from neighboring communities, neighboring civilizations, neighboring cultures. But in no other creation myth does God declare that there shall forever be a day of rest every week. Now, the great insight here, the incredible Hebrew genius here, was to perceive that the need for rest is woven into the very fabric of creation. And for creation to flourish, there must be times of complete rest. I'll examine that in great detail next week. And whether we like to admit it or not, folks, we are not the authors of creation, and we are not the masters of creation, no matter how hard we try. We are creatures within it. And so the need for rest applies to us. Interesting fact. Sociologists tell us that we actually work fewer hours today than we did 15 years ago. 1997. Really? Hard to believe, right? Most of us don't remember our parents being as busy as we are. But we feel like we are working more. And why is this? What are we doing that makes us feel like we are working more when we actually aren't? Is it possible that we're really missing something vitally important? Sabbath was not only designed to restrict work. That's where it begins. But it was designed so that human beings would create a space and a time for other things. And those things were reflection, personal development, time spent focusing on God, but especially time with family and time with community. And as Abby Zimmerman said this morning, fun. Somehow we sometimes forget that. But as you study the scriptures, and as you study the Jewish, especially, use of Sabbath throughout the years, it was dedicated to fun as much as anything else. Because fun is required if we are ever to be restored and refreshed. Because who we were designed to be. All I want to ask you is, what would you gain if you managed to do that for a significant amount of time every single week? So in the coming weeks, I want us to explore these and other questions. And I'm not looking for unreasonable answers, trust me. I am not going to say, oh yes, we should turn the clock back to a supposedly simpler time. We should fight those laws and say we can go to Walmart 24 hours a day. No, we're not going that direction. But I hope that by naming our reality, and I hope that by being honest about our challenges, we may find that the concept of Sabbath can still be useful to us, and that it might help us create a healthier rhythm to our weeks, and hopefully to our lives. Thank you.